This election is a binary choice. These are the two candidates based on the primary schedule that voters showed that these are who they want representing the respective parties. And so the question is, do you want a leader in chief or a liar in chief? They both have had 4 years in the White House for the American people to observe what they are like, not on a 90-minute debate stage, but what they're like on the job.
But first, let's go to the United States, where a Texan congressman has become the first sitting Democratic lawmaker to call for Joe Biden to step aside as the party's nominee in the race for the White House. In a statement, the representative Lloyd Doggett said, "I'm hopeful that he will make the painful and difficult decision to withdraw." Well, it comes after Joe Biden appeared to struggle during a debate with the former President Donald Trump last Thursday. And concerns have been raised about his performance, which is said to have sent panic through parts of the Democratic movement. This evening, the former Speaker of the US House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, said concerns over both candidates' mental agility are legitimate.
He has judgment. He has a strategic thinking in the rest. He has a bad night. Now, again, I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition? And so when people ask that question, it's completely legitimate of both candidates.
Well, that was Nancy Pelosi speaking tonight. Let's talk to Antjuan Seawright, a Democratic strategist. Good evening to you, Antjuan.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Good to have you with us. How significant is it, do you think, that this Texan congressman, he won't be exactly a household name to many of our listeners here in the UK, Lloyd Doggett, but he is a serving Democrat politician, saying that he thinks that Joe Biden should step aside?
Well, most people would not be able to articulate who the congressman is had he not made this statement. So I think we should all put this in context. Now, that does not dismiss what he feels because he has the right to express himself and feel that way. But for every one of him, there are hundreds and thousands, and in my opinion, millions of people who fully support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who that is the reason why a records amount of money was raised post the debate. It's the reason why the Biden campaign outraged the Trump campaign in the month of June. And that's why you start to see consolidation in many places, particularly among consequential constituencies like African Americans. All you have to do is take a look at Wisconsin this weekend. You had Congressman Jim Clyburn and Governor Wes Moore spending time in battleground Wisconsin this weekend, where the energy on the ground vibrated all across the United States. And so I think there's a different conversation happening in different spaces.
Yeah, but Antoine, I mean, anyone who watched that debate, and I watched the whole thing, and I mean, at times it was painful. I mean, Joe Biden looked bewildered at times. He lost his thread. He stumbled. Even the closing statement, which presumably he'd
Well,
rehearsed.
let's talk about the debate.
I mean,
Let's
surely
talk
that
about
is
the
going
debate.
to. Surely voters in the
You
United
invited me on your
States are going to be
program. Let
looking
me
at that.
respond. Let me
Yeah,
respond to your question. You invited me to your program.
yeah, I'm
So
keen to hear.
let's talk about the debate. The president did not have the best night, but he did not have the worst night. And the question for people who watch the debate and what they glean from the debate is Joe Biden, excuse me, may have not articulated his answers in such a way that everyone was pleased, but his answers were full of substance. If you look at his answers compared to the many lies that came from the former president, the question voters have to ask is, which candidate would you want to choose? This election is a binary choice. These are the two candidates based on the primary schedule that voters showed that these are who they want representing the respective parties. And so the question is, do you want a leader in chief or a liar in chief? They both have had 4 years in the White House for the American people to observe what they are like, not on a 90-minute debate stage, but what they're like on the job, actually doing the job. And I
But
think
Antoine,
voters will
that's
make a
not the
clear
only
choice in
choice, is
November.
it? But that's not the only choice, is it? Because there are others within the Democrat movement who are
That's not,
really
no, no.
worried about Joe Biden and would like the party to be thinking, even at this late stage, about whether Joe Biden should stand aside. I mean, that presumably at this late stage would have to be a decision for the president himself. But do you not accept that your party might stand a better chance if it got in a newer, younger nominee?
I am riding with Biden. I think the president has proven that he can win. The president has proven he knows how to govern. The president has proven that he can maneuver in tight spaces. The president has proven that he, when down, can get back up. The president has proven that he can take on extremists like Donald Trump. The president has also proven that he can unite the country and work together in a bipartisan fashion when it comes to governing and pass one of the most consequential legislative agendas in the history of this country with the slimmest majorities in the history of this country. And so I am very confident that Joe Biden can do the job. I'm very confident that he can finish the campaign. And more importantly, I'm very confident that this country will be better off with Joe Biden as his leader versus Donald Trump even thinking about being his leader.
We've seen one of President Biden's most important backers, Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, saying he'd support Vice President Kamala Harris as the nominee if Joe Biden steps down. I mean, when you see the difficulties that he has, when we know the immense pressure of serving and serving for another 4 years, do you not think that just in human terms it would make more sense for Joe Biden now to
I do
stand
not. I
aside and
do
let
not.
someone
And
else do the job?
I do not. And if you're speaking to the comments that my mentor, my political father, Jim Clyburn made, I can give you all the real context behind his comments. And you can follow it up with a comment he made in an article and a commentary on Sunday when he said he supports Biden and Harris. If Harris is not there, he supports Biden. If Biden is not there, he supports Harris. And so for anyone, including this program, to take those comments out of context, I think is just malpractice. What he's saying is he supports the Democratic ticket as it is.
Let me ask you then about the wider race, because Donald Trump has been celebrating what he sees as two big wins, that Supreme Court ruling, which gave him some immunity from prosecution when it comes to his behavior over the result of the 2020 election. And we've now had the New York judge delaying sentencing until September on his hush money case. Um, and despite all these legal difficulties, I've been seeing polls that seem to suggest that Trump has a narrow lead in some of those key swing seats where the election will be decided. How does Joe Biden turn that around?
Well, it's June. The election's in November. We've seen polls that indicate different things along the way. I don't buy into the roller coaster ride that the polls will give us because we know polls are a snapshot of the time and they do not define the time. Those same polls indicated that there was going to be a red wave in the midterms, and we saw what happened with that. Those same polls indicated that Trump was going to beat Joe Biden in 2020. We saw with that. I think polls only give us a portion of the picture. They do not frame the picture. People decide the election. Elections are not decided by polls, and they're certainly not decided in June. Do we have work to do? Absolutely. Can we get the work done? Absolutely. Who's going to lead us in that effort? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.